The last time we read the story of the three little pigs. Do you remember what happened? That's right. There were three little pigs. And Mom told them to go out and build their houses. And the first little pig built his house out of straw. And the second little pig built his house out of sticks. And the third little pig built his home out of bricks. And along came the big bad wolf. And he came to the first house made out of straw, and he huffed. He knocked at the door and said, little pig, let me in." Little pig said, "Not by the hair of my chitty chin chin." And the big bad wolf huffed, and he puffed, and he blew that house down. So he went to the second house made out of sticks. He knocked on the door and he said, little pig, let me in." And the little pig said, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." So the big bad wolf huffed and he puffed and he blew the house in, and that little pig had to run away. Then he came to the third house. It was made out of bricks. And he said, little pig, let me in." And the little pig said, "Not by the hair of my chitty chin chin." So he huffed and he puffed and he blew, but nothing happened. So he huffed and he puffed and he blew even harder, and still nothing happened. But the big bad wolf climbed up the chimney and went down, and that's where he was met with a big boiling pot of water. Do you remember that? Well, I have another book for today's read aloud. It is the true story of the three little pigs, and the author is A. Wolf. Who do you think wrote this story? The big bad wolf? Well, you're right. This is the true story told by the wolf. Let's see what he thinks really happened. Everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, or at least they think they do, but I'll let you in on a little secret. No one knows the real story because no one has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves like to eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think that you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back and once upon a time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold and I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house out of straw? So of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in?" No answer. I was about to go home without a cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. And that's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down, and right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was smarter, but not by much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on, and I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor, I promise. Now, food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little bit better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? He said, "Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again." Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. And then that third little pig yelled, "And your old granny can sit on a pin." Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when someone talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break down the pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. And the news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting, so they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. Real story. I was framed. But maybe you can lend me a cup of sugar?